And just allow yourself to arrive. The physical body is here, but allow the full awareness the full presence to also arrive. Allow yourself to just pull that attachment of your awareness, which is usually attached to the things in the outer world. Just feel yourself literally unhooking your awareness from sounds or smells or sensations. Unhooking the awareness from the flittering and fluttering of the mind. And drawing that awareness deep into the presence of yourself. Feel that awareness expanding throughout your being. Allow that awareness to expand first through the physical being, but then allow that awareness to merge with your breath as you anchor yourself in the energetic being. Don't try to change the breath. You're not working with it in any kind of muscular way. You're simply allowing your awareness to merge with the flow of prana, that flow of energy between you and the universe. If the mind gets distracted by a thought or a sensation, don't worry. Don't yell at it. Just bring it gently back to the breath as you become fully immersed in this flow of energy. This flow of life force through your very being. And notice that if you hold the physical body very, very still, don't move at all. If you hold the body very still and you allow that awareness just to merge with the breath, that slowly there's no longer an inside or an outside. There's no longer a sense of inhaling from the outer to the inner, or exhaling from the inner to the outer. But rather there is only breathing. As the body is very still, allow that border, that boundary between inner and outer to dissolve. There is no inner. There is no outer. There is only breath. Ever so slowly and gently, bring the palms together at chest level and rub them gently against each other. Place your cupped palms over your closed eyes. Slowly open the eyes and lower the hands. Welcome to Satsang. Welcome. So wonderful to be together with you all. So, as usual, we'll begin with a question that's come in advance from our global family from all over the world who join us online and send in questions online out of love and compassion for the fact that they're not able to be here physically. We begin with a question they've sent in, and then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. What does it mean to have a good life? Well, obviously it depends who you ask. And I think it also really depends on when you ask them. Means if you ask a lot of people in their teens, in their 20s, in their 30s, even in many cases in their 40s, and some even beyond that, what they'll tell you is it means to make a lot of money, to have a great job, to become, the president or the CEO, to really be very, very financially successful. To be powerful. Sandeepji, jara bahar jaake dekh lijiye. To be very successful, to be wealthy on that level, to have everybody respect them and obey them, to accumulate a lot of things, to accomplish a lot of things. But if you fast forward to asking people who are on their deathbed, or in the very, very, very last days, weeks, months of their life, whether because they're very old, or whether because tragically they may have been diagnosed with terminal illness or something. But in either case, if you get people at the very end of their life, you're never going to hear anybody talk about their salary, the number of cars they had. I've never heard of anybody on their deathbed saying, God, I should have bought that Mercedes. God, I really wish that I, had worked a little harder, had made some more money so I could have bought that Mercedes. You never hear of anybody saying, God, I wish I had made more money. I wish I had more employees. I wish people had feared me just a little more. What you always hear is, God, I wish I had loved more. I wish that I had smelled more flowers. I wish that I had lay in more grass. I wish I had meditated more. I wish I had given of myself more, selflessly. I wish I had connected more. I wish I didn't feel so empty, so alone. These are the things that affect people at the end of life, is what have I done? Made all this money, bought these big houses, had big cars, was a big success. But is my heart full? Do I feel like I've connected with the divine? Do I feel like I've given of myself? That I've interacted with on a deeply meaningful level with the rest of creation? Loving them, being with them, serving. And I don't just mean humans, by the way. Not even necessarily talking about humans at all. Animals, trees, rivers, mountains, grass, flowers. All of that which is here is these beautiful manifestations of the divine. So, a good life, I would think you'd have to ask someone who was at the end of theirs. And for me, what I've always heard by people at the end of life, as well as about people at the end of life, is it's always about divine connection. It's always about giving. It's always about loving. It's about selflessness. It's about awareness. I mean, you think, what is it that's so scary about that? We feel like we're going to disappear. Well, we know. We know it's only the body that we lose. But if that's all we're identified with, then yeah, we lose ourselves. So you'd think a good life would be one in which I was taking myself with me. I mean, think about going on a holiday, right? You leave your home. You leave behind that which is familiar. And imagine going on a holiday without a bag. No suitcase, no baggage, no nothing, just you. But you know that wherever you go, they'll give you a toothbrush, they'll give you whatever you need. But it'll be different than the one you left at home. But that's all right. And you're not afraid because you're going, right? You're the one walking out of the house. You're the one getting in the car. You're the one going to the airport. You're the one getting on the airplane. You're the one who's going to get off on the other side. So there isn't this horrible horror of where am I going, what's going to happen, because well, I'll be there. When the plane lands, when I get on this vacation I'm going to, this holiday I'm going on, I'll be there. Okay, it'll be a different toothbrush, a different set of clothes, but that's all right. It's one of those full package deals, right? All-inclusive tours. But you're not afraid because you know you're going to be there. Now, death is so scary because we feel like I'm not going to be there. Right? I mean, if I told you, okay, you're going to die, but you're going to retain total awareness and consciousness. You'll still be there. You'll just get a new body. It wouldn't be nearly as scary, right? Not nearly as upsetting. I mean, we could all deal with getting a new body. That's all right. If I said to you, don't worry, it's literally going to be just like taking off your clothes, having a shower, and getting out. No loss of continuity of consciousness, awareness, self at all. Would you still fear it? Would it still seem like a tragedy? Of course not, right? All right, new body, I can manage that. It's scary because we feel like I'm going to lose myself. Where will I go? And so when I, on a personal level, think about a good life, I want to be so one with the part of me that is consistent, that it literally feels at the end of life like I'm just taking a shower and I'm going to put on a pair of new clothes. That to me would be a good life, that you're so one with soul, spirit, source, divine consciousness, that there's no sense of I'm losing myself, but rather, okay, here we go. Here we go. Full package, all-inclusive trip to my next body. No regrets in this one. Fully loved, fully gave, fully surrendered. And now here we go. In full consciousness, soul consciousness, into the next one. So to me, that would be a good life. Any questions? Anyone here? Yes. She's just coming from behind you with the mic.
Thank you. It really resonates with me, what you're sharing. Thank you. And at the same time, I feel there are two parts of me. And it's like this spiritual journey is, there's like this bridge, and one part already ran over the bridge, and the other doesn't even want to step on it. So, what would you recommend?
Yeah. So anybody else ever feel like this? She's walking on a spiritual path. She feels like there's two parts to her, that there's one part that's already over the bridge, that's crossed over fully, and another part that's not even prepared to get on the bridge. This is what you would call true self and ego self. True self is there. It's there. Didn't have to actually go anywhere. It's not like it actually had to cross a bridge. It's just there. It knows it is. It's what we access when we meditate, when we pray, in whatever spiritual experiences that touch us. We're there, yeah. And then there's the ego side that's terrified of that. Because the ego only knows itself as this physical body and as the story that this body is living in. Where it's from, what it does, how much money it has. All of the ways that we identify it, that's what the ego knows. If you say to the ego, who are you? Well, it'll give you a whole list of who I am, all based on this body. The idea of being more is terrifying to the ego. For you not to be your drama, not to be your story, is scary for the ego. I was talking a few nights ago, maybe last week in here, about a billboard I had seen when I was back in America a few weeks ago for this legal firm, and their website is whohurtyou.com. True story, not a joke. Now, that's one way of identifying. And it's actually how most of us identify. It's how we are encouraged to identify. Who art you? Give us a call. Tell us your story. We'll get you money for it. Who art you? Come to us. We're primed and we are indoctrinated and we are encouraged to self-identify based on what has happened to us. Where have you been screwed by life? That's your identity. True self over here, or not here, but everywhere. We'll call him here, the one over the bridge, for the sake of the visual metaphor, is saying, but that's not me. That's not who I am. I am soul. Yeah. That person who hurt me was hurting so badly. I could feel it. I could know it. I have compassion because I see self in all. Not that it should have happened, not that it's okay that it happened, not that I want it to happen again, but it isn't who I am. Because I existed long before whatever it is happened. I've existed a long time since it happened. It's not who I am. So true self knows. But that's really scary to the ego. Because otherwise the ego is the part that says, well, who am I? And here's how you deal with it. Don't worry. Don't try to force the ego, because the ego is like a child. And anybody who's ever worked with kids knows, the more you try to force them to do something, right? You know, Pujya Sadhviji always talks about giving what we call sanskaras to our children, values, ethics, and how it happens so frequently. You'll see he'll go to someone's home, the family will come, they'll bow, they'll do pranam, and the kids will come, and the parents want to show that they're very dharmic people, very spiritual. And so they'll tell the kid, pranam karo, do pranam, like bow at the feet of this saint. Now, if they have not already inculcated in the child how to act in the presence of a guru, the kid has no idea. But the parents want the guru to know that they've taught this to their kid. And so they'll take the kid's neck. I've seen it happen 1,000 times. They'll take the kid's neck and they push it into the ground. Bow, pranam karo. To show, see, look how humble and good our kids are. Now, the dilemma with that is, from now on, every time these kids see someone in saffron colors, they're going to run and hide in their room because they know this is neck pain time. They have no idea about anything else that's going on, but they know neck pain time. Now, you haven't actually achieved it. The ego is really similar. You're not going to subdue the ego by pushing on it. You're not going to be able to drag the ego by dragging it. Again, as anybody who's ever tried to drag a kid who's throwing a temper tantrum, what do? They plaster themselves on the ground. Try to move them. Right? The more you try to pick them up and get them off the ground, the more they pancake themselves on the ground. The ego's really similar. Don't worry. Let it be. Let it be. Because the truth is, the true self doesn't need the ego to climb over the bridge. The ego can be wherever it is as long as it's not in the driver's seat of the car of your life. You don't have to no longer have an ego in order to live a spiritually rich, deep life. You just have to no longer be controlled by it. So, anchor your awareness in true self. Anchor your awareness in that being for whom there never was a bridge. And when the ego is doing its thing over here, don't try to drag it, don't push it, don't traumatize it any further. Just bow to it. Wave at it, smile at it. I see you. Kids throwing temper tantrums, that's all they want is to be seen. They just want to be seen. I see you. And no, you don't get the keys to the car. We're having a party over here if you'd like to join us. But if not, no problem. I see you. But I'm going to be over here. Because see, you're no longer driving my car. I'm not going to throw you out on the highway going 100 miles an hour. I'm not looking to annihilate you. It's not me versus you. You know, in spirituality, a lot of people talk like that. I'm going to annihilate the ego. You've got to annihilate the ego. And the problem for that I've experienced personally is, every time I say that, you know who's listening? My ego. The ego's right in there going, oh, really? Today's the day, huh? And that's the dilemma, is you can't actually have a private conversation away from the ego. So the minute that you tell yourself, yeah, I'm going to show my ego, I'm going to annihilate the thing, all it does is get more and more scared, more and more strong, more and more well-formed, more and more trying to throw that temper tantrum to drag you back. So don't think about annihilation. Think about it like the child in your car. It's part of your package deal of this karmic journey. The ego comes along. But just don't let them drag you or drive you. You live in that space of true self. And every once in a while, you'll notice the ego falls asleep in the back seat. And then you've got a really blissful journey. And sometimes that ego will just take a nap for a really nice long time. And then temporarily it may wake up again, and then something arises and you again address it. And then it goes back into its nap, and your journey continues. Yeah. Beautiful. Other questions? Yes. Welcome home.
So nice to be here in person again. Thank you. I have a question. You know, in the Andean culture, they used to say that someone can steal your soul. Do you think that's possible?
No. I do not think someone can steal your soul. Because there's no place for the soul to go. To steal your soul implies that there's a beginning and an end of your soul, that it's a finite sort of thing. Like I could steal your scarf. It's, a few feet long, and I could reach over and I could grab it and steal it, and then it would be with me, not with you. But the soul is not limited. I mean, if I said to you, okay, here's the ocean. See that wave? I want you to scoop up that wave for me. Could you do it? I mean, even assuming that you had the machinery, could you do it? And you couldn't do it because the wave is one with ocean. There's no way actually to scoop wave out of ocean. There's no place ocean ends and wave begins, or wave ends and ocean begins. How are you going to pull a wave out of the ocean? The individual soul that we have, what we call Jiva Atma, you can think about it like a wave of the ocean. Meaning, temporarily it has come into this body, therefore there is a form of the body for a specific short intersection of time and space. So when we say illusion, we don't mean an illusion like an optical illusion. It's not you don't exist, you are. I could put my hand through you. It's not one of those illusions, but illusion as in, which is more true, wave or ocean? Right? Now, the wave is there. It's not that the wave is a lie. But the highest truth of that wave is ocean. If you look at that wave under a microscope, you see ocean. The essence of wave is ocean. So Jiva Atma, while having temporarily utilized a physical body for an aspect of its karmic journey, isn't actually separate from what we call Paramatma, which is ocean, supreme reality. So there isn't actually any way to extricate Jiva Atma from Paramatma. So there's no way to steal it. There's no place for it to go. That being said, I have a lot of reverence for indigenous cultures. And I think that there is very, very deep truth in indigenous wisdom. And so my instinct is that the wisdom has been improperly translated as it trickles down, much like a lot of the Sanskrit teachings and truths from the scriptures. I mean, you won't believe the things you hear people say, as though they were part of Sanatan Dharma, as though they were part of the Vedas. And they'll pull a word or they'll pull a phrase and you think, oh no, like, yeah, that word is there, but no, that has nothing to do with what it means, because see, actually, here is what it means. And my instinct is that this is a trickle-down problem with translation. I think what someone can do is separate your awareness from your soul. If I come into your life and I convince you that you are your body, and that body is wrong, and it's an object, and I do everything I can to pull you out of your true self into your physical body self, but in a way of fear, of a sense of lack, I have pulled you away from your true self in your awareness. And I think people can do that. So I don't think that they're stealing a soul, but they're stealing our awareness, our presence, our connection to our soul. If somebody, you see it with severe child abuse, where children dissociate and literally learn to go away, to not be here. Well, what you've done is you have literally stolen that child's ability to inhabit their very energetic self. And that's just one example. So, yes, I think you can steal someone's ability, injure, harm someone's ability to recognize their soul, to stay connected to their soul, which is obviously a very great sin to do. It's great harm. But you can't actually steal the soul. And the good news about that, of course, is that regardless of any way that we have been harmed by someone who may have pulled us, one person, several people, or just an amorphic indoctrination by a culture that has gotten us to disconnect from the truth of who we are in the service of creating robots who will just click here and buy now. You know, it's what a lot of our culture is doing to us. Very calculatively, very deliberately, very very insidiously disconnecting us from the very truth, the very fullness, the very wholeness of who we are, so that we'll click and buy. But the good news, whether it's been done to you through some kind of abuse, whether it's been done to you through this kind of cultural indoctrination or whatever, is your soul hasn't actually gone anywhere. You haven't actually lost anything other than the ease of connection. And then it's just about finding your way back. Then it's just like going back to your metaphor. It's like you've attached with ego over here. Your awareness has attached your ego over here on this side of the bridge. And all you need to do is have your awareness find its way back to true self. But the true self hasn't actually gone anywhere. Yes.
Namo Namaha Sadaram Pranamami Bhavatim. I cannot understand English very good.
No problem.
I can speak Sanskrit या हिंदी. So यहाँ पे जो बात चल रही थी लाइफ जीवन के विषय में चल रही थी. तो जब तक मेरी दृष्टि मैं गुरुकुल से पढ़ा हुआ छात्र हूँ और दिल्ली से मैंने अपनी पढ़ाई की है, लेकिन आज तक मैं समझ नहीं पाया कि मैं इतना जप करता हूँ, लेकिन फिर भी है कि हरे नाम एव केवलम. लेकिन हरि का नाम जपते 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 मैं थक गया हूँ. लेकिन मुझे पता ही नहीं लग रहा कि हरि कहाँ है. मैं ध्यान तक पहुँच जा रहा हूँ पर फिर भी मेरे को पता नहीं लग रहा कि हरि कहाँ है. और बल्कि मेरा चिंतन ये है कि सब पुराना वेदास हम पढ़ रहे हैं, लेकिन फिर भी हम ईश्वर को पहचान नहीं पा रहे हैं.
Beautiful. Okay. For those of you who didn't understand the question, he said, I grew up in the Gurukul tradition, the spiritual studies, the Vedic studies. I do my japa, I do my chanting. But I get tired of doing my chanting because I keep taking God's name, but I'm not finding God. I'm meditating on God, but I'm not finding God. How will I actually find God? I'm doing all the right things. There's a story. English तो समझते हैं ना पढ़ते? धीरे बोलूँगी. There's a story of a man like you who was looking for God everywhere, doing sadhana, doing meditation, doing study, but he couldn't find God. And he was very frustrated, very upset, very hurt. And he sat down next to a river. And he said, forget it. I'm not doing any of this anymore, forget it. I'm tired. Can't see God anywhere, forget it. And suddenly, out of the river, a fish jumped into the air. And the fish starts flapping around in the air, saying, water, 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 I'm going to die without water. I need water. And the man says, you silly fish, you live in water. You've just come out of the water, now you're screaming for water, just go back in the water. And the fish says, love stories where fish can talk. So the fish says, you are doing the same thing. You're screaming and crying for God. But you live in God like I live in water. But for you it's even more because there's no place you can go that God isn't. For me, I can come in the air, there's no water. But for you, there's no place God isn't. But you're flapping around in God, screaming for God. Go back inside. You tell me, go back in the water. I tell you, go back inside. God is there. Take it. These practices of japa, of meditation, they're not something that brings God. They're something that purifies our vision so we can experience God. So it's not, I'm going to just keep doing my japa and then suddenly God will appear. It's through my japa I will open my eyes and realize I have been looking at God the whole time. That's the power. Beautiful. Last. Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the balance between, like, with physical illness or dis-ease and spirituality and energy. Like when we experience just the balance and relationship between the two.
The relationship between physical illness and spiritual experience. Well, there's a lot of ways to look at the relationship. If you're already physically sick, it's certainly a great spiritual challenge and opportunity. To realize that you are not that which is sick. To realize that you are not the body. That it's a sickness somewhere in the body. But that isn't you, that you're not sick. So that's a very great challenge and opportunity. But it's also really important to realize one of the really tragic, I think, myths and pernicious myths, not just tragic, in what you could call kind of Western New Age spirituality, is this idea that somehow physical illness is a failure. That if you just meditated better, visioned better, manifested better, you wouldn't have gotten sick and you'd be able to overcome it. And I think it's actually one of the most damaging pieces of misinformation that is circulating. Yes, there is a very large, very powerful, very direct relationship between what we think, how we feel, and how our physical body acts. We know that. There's lots and lots of research showing the power of thought, of emotion on the body. Stress is the easiest way to think about that, right? I mean, why is it that whenever you're stressed, we get sick? Right? Direct relationship. Increased stress, lower immune system. But there's more subtle relationships as well. But that doesn't mean that there's no other cause of physical illness. It doesn't mean that if you are sick, it's because you had the wrong thoughts or the wrong beliefs. One aspect that impacts our physical body is the energy from our mind and other things. Mosquitoes, right? Bad water, bad food, bacteria, viruses, fungi, a fall from a second-story building. I mean, there's all sorts of things that impact our physical body other than our thoughts, our beliefs, our spiritual prowess. So illness is a spiritual opportunity for sure, but it should never be taken as a spiritual failure. And it's so interesting because if you look at our history and you look at the greatest sages and saints and mystics, so many of them died so young. You look at Adi Shankaracharya. You look at Swami Vivekananda. I mean, I'm talking 30s and 40s. So many examples. Ramakrishna Paramahansa, I wasn't that young, but he also was not old. So many examples. The most enlightened beings, young, and from illnesses. So there's no sense of it being a failure. And I think that's really, really important. Take it as an opportunity, but don't take it as a cause of death. If it's there in your life now, it means there's something you're supposed to learn from it. Learn the lesson. And the physical situation will resolve. Maybe it will resolve in you leaving this body and getting a new one in your next life. Or maybe it'll resolve because the body will heal. But as soon as the lesson is done, it will resolve in some way, one or the other. But from a spiritual perspective, neither is better or worse. It's not, oh, you did good, so the body resolved by staying. Or you did bad, the body resolved by leaving and giving you a new one. We take the lessons. And we go deep. And take it as an opportunity to connect with spirit, with that which isn't the body, that which isn't sick. To be grateful. Take it as an opportunity to be grateful for all of what we've got. Knowing that one way or the other the body's going to resolve. And that we're here as spirit. But however many days we have with the body, whether the body is ailing or not ailing, the question is always the same. What through me? What through me? How can I be in this moment a channel, a vehicle, a vessel of love, of light, of healing for others and myself? Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. And so much love to you all.